How the fuck we go from trans drags
to fucking nuclear weapons?
And we still haven't gotten to the episode
Topics that are
yet.
hand in hand.
Let me run the
start
intro.
this shit. That was a lot of topics right there.
Just a casual Sunday morning.
Are just words.
All I have to offer is words. Just words.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
What's going on, my beautiful peoples? It's your boy Ron Kane. Welcome to Just Words, Nobody Cares. Yo, we've been talking for like an hour.
That's crazy.
And I did have the record button, but yo, we were talking so much shit that it's even too much for just words.
Yeah. Keep that one in the vault. Keep that one in the vault.
I was like, whoa.
The unreleased episode.
Yeah. I'm like, you know, if I had the big, that's what I need to do is get the sound effect for canceled. and I'm like, yo, I'm canceled from fucking the minute zero of that episode.
Yeah.
If I would have ever released that shit, I'll probably put out little snippets. But anyways, yo, that shit's wild. Already we haven't started, and I'm like blown away by it.
Me too.
I know.
So am I.
But so I'm gonna get right into it. You know who you got on deck? My brother, my main man, Dre Drizzle.
What's going on? What's happening, my people? Happy to be here again. Feels like I never left.
Don't sound too excited.
One of those draggy days. Well, it started draggy before I got here, but after this conversation prior, it was like, oh no, I'm hyped.
It's fully drag.
I'm hyped.
You get it? You get it?
I said prior too. I know what to say.
But you got it right. I don't think you
It's
got it.
I got it.
intense.
Yeah,
It's
I have to do it again.
We were looking at the North Face
We're gonna
Pride.
give them commercial time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were looking at one of the most recent corporate. I will block them out.
Okay.
We were looking at one of the most most recent commercial corporate exploits of wanting to highlight the LGBT community.
Yeah.
Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Exploit, I would argue.
Exploit or
Capitalize off of.
Capitalize. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Capitalize off of the community. Before we get to who our guest is, and is our quarterly brother, but we'll get our next person up. You already know is the wonderful, the lovely, honorable Lady H.
I'm laughing because yesterday Yolanda was like, "Oh, you're honorable, respectful lady," because she asked how we met. And so it's always funny that you introduce me like that.
Do you not like it?
I mean, yeah, it's good. I feel so proper when you do that. So I'm like,
Sounds
oh,
awesome.
thank you. Glad to hold court with my people.
Oh man. How are we feeling today?
Great.
Fantastic.
Beautiful day.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We're like skimming right through the intros because
'cause
everybody's like, yo, let's just get to this shit.
Get into it. Let's
I know,
get
we got a
into
whole
it.
episode to do today.
Who we got on deck is our brother, our quarterly reporter, Clark Kent.
He's back.
Hopefully this episode makes it to air.
Oh
So,
shit. Shots
my
fired.
bad. Hey, yo, you're right. And let me get back. Fucking shots fired already. Cool. You know, it's not that I didn't want to air the last episode, and I did like edit and everything. But Ricky, I was like, wow, man, it's just such a heavy fucking
was.
episode.
Yeah,
it was.
And I think it's because I walked in with the mentality of like, oh, we're gonna chill, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna catch up.
Clark Kent dropped the bomb.
My
No,
man,
it wasn't just me. Let's all get straight.
It was nuclears all over.
yo,
A
nah,
recap for our listeners.
it basically started with like getting accidentally double charged by the MTA, remember?
Yeah.
And then it just fucking evolved to just a lot of sadness.
Yeah.
Like it's like brokenness.
There was no happy news at the end of
Yes.
this.
Nah. Yeah.
And I was just like, Diablo, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, it was a lot.
And so when I edited it, a lot of the information was still relevant, but now I'm trying to get these episodes out much quicker. But it was still relevant, but a lot of the stuff that you had mentioned was now taking place.
Yeah.
You know, what we were talking in the hypothetical was now happening. I can't recall exactly. Off the top of my-
Well, we'll get into it when we start talking about the immigration stuff. So.
It's yeah, I agree.
Okay,
that type
yeah.
of stuff.
And so
Okay.
it was like a lot
very
of
present
those.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Yeah, I have a show on 42nd Street that's opening next week after next, and so I've been going down there every day for a month, and it's very present. Like you do see the new immigrants here in the city, and you see them excited. I see them excited right now because they're in the Big Apple, and I also see them, I think, waiting for work. I don't know. They're just hanging out.
So Yeah, we can get in. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just
Anyways,
dive right in.
yeah, welcome.
So apparently the hot button topic is immigrants.
So let's.
It's killing everybody. It's getting to our kids.
The kids.
Not the
Inside
kids,
joke.
not the kids.
You know, we have no money. It costs $4 billion a day to take care of them here. I don't know if that's all.
So let's table set here for a little bit. So starting last year, we had a fun decision. The governor of Texas and governor of Florida,
Shout out to Texas.
and Florida, started sending busloads of migrants over without warning to the city, telling them what time they were coming.
Why do we call them migrants and not immigrants? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know, actually.
What's the difference? It's the same shit, right?
It is the same thing though, but the idea is like they're part of a migration pattern. So
Migrant.
Migrants
So,
and immigrants.
Versus
Migrants is like a
immigrants?
short.
Immigrants is when they're just
they
crossing
come?
Yeah.
the border.
Where they come and they stay? I don't know. Aren't they synonymous?
I'm gonna have to look this up. Do
Yeah.
a little thing.
Pop up.
So anyway, so we get, so we've been getting this influx for months now. I mean, so there was this big build up about there was this caravan that was supposed to come over, I think last month. The numbers never came to be. Like everyone overhyped it, overexpected it. Even though historically, every time they overhype it and expect it, it always falls apart somewhere. Though Title 42 got revoked, which basically. The rule for Title 42 was that you got here, we can kick you out because we said COVID was a threat, but it didn't get marked on your card or go against you. Now you come in, you get caught, you're on a 5-year ban, don't want to see you ever again, and you can also face jail time.
Oh, okay.
So we lock you up,
Yeah, pretty much.
and it costs
Got
like
it.
$70,000 a year.
or we just
Each
basically
person.
we throw you
Offer
on
to
the
the
first,
taxpayer.
and we
each
also
person.
throw you on the first plane out of here. Though and go like, oh, you're banned for 5 years now. So here we are. Though numbers haven't added up, but we're still getting an influx of migrants into New York, specifically Manhattan, 42nd Street Terminal. Shout out to Times Square.
I was wondering how they were getting there. I'm like, yo, how do they land in Times Square specifically? It's because of the
They dropped
bus.
them
Yes.
off. Yeah.
Ah,
At Penn Station.
The terminal.
That's right.
Yeah. So I was like, come on, like they just
You
chilling
know,
there.
you know
They
how
literally dropped them off. at
how
Port Authority.
mind blowing that shit. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
continue.
How mind blowing that gotta be. You an immigrant from somewhere and
you're
the
in New
first
York.
in the fucking epicenter
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
40
That's why
seconds.
I see
all the
them
lights.
excited.
You imagine?
They're so
that gotta be
excited
a
right now.
mind
Yeah,
fuck.
man.
Yeah,
So-
they're all young
Yeah.
men, but they're
Damn.
so excited with the stars in
I
their
couldn't
I
eyes.
just
imagine.
walked through fucking treacherous terrain
you know what I'm saying?
and the jungles
Yeah.
of Nicaragua.
And I hit
No, they're
42nd
hyped.
Street.
They are hyped to be here.
Of course.
Yeah.
They probably only seen it on TV and now
Yeah,
they.
yeah.
Right,
So they get sent with a bus ticket, like no explanation, like you're going to New York, or let me correct that now. They're all sending them to Chicago, anywhere that basically, I mean, those Eric Adams will say, anywhere that has a black mayor, you're getting one.
Anyway, that's a black mayor.
Damn, that's wild. Didn't think
is
about that political outcome.
But yeah, supposedly all these liberal cities, like I know, Ron DeSantis sent like
But Eric isn't
Oh,
that
he was-
liberal.
No, but
No.
Oh, my bad.
We'll get.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole fun story. So I mean, the DeSantis sent like a plane load of people from Florida to Nantucket because he thought it was funny.
Oh right, there was that.
They're on the
stunt.
plane?
Yeah, I mean, like basically, he just took, or there was a bus also. Like he just basically told them like, "Oh, Massachusetts is taking you. Bye."
And then the people there welcomed them with open arms.
they did though. But the thing
the
is, that they don't
first.
have. But they don't have the. I mean, though they didn't have the resources to actually keep them. It was like, oh, you know, you guys have money, and it's like, yeah, though, but we don't actually have space. So we've been getting an influx from the city. Now it becomes an interesting question though, of like what the real number is though, because the influx didn't happen at the border. So we are not getting like a whole new wave that no one expected. We're getting surprise waves. Like I think, all right. So for anyone who didn't hear the episode, like the analogy I made last time was like, imagine my cousin shows up with his whole family at 2:00 in the afternoon without telling you. Oh, by the way, though, we're your guests.
Yeah,
Oh, that
I bring
happened to
these
us.
I bring these niggas that BYOB, you know what I'm saying? I bring these niggas that fucking
Bring shit.
Bring shit. I
Pastelitos at least.
No, but that happened to us at the start of the pandemic with your cousin.
Which one?
That stayed with us for
Oh
like,
yeah, no.
like months.
I actually did house some immigrants for a while.
yeah.
You had a cousin that stayed with you?
Yeah,
and,
man.
and her husband,
our-
right here.
From Ecuador.
Oh,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
they
oh,
were
shit,
here
so
for
you,
like
you went
5
through
months.
your own little.
Yeah, nigga.
Migrant.
And they got fucking mad comfortable. I was like, all right.
That's when I
They
moved
just showed
here
up?
first. Yeah.
no,
showed up.
it was supposed to be for like a week, but because they couldn't fly back because of COVID, that shit ended up being like 6 months.
It kept getting pushed back and pushed back
and I was
pushed
like-
back.
Oh, y'all must have been going crazy.
We were patient.
I mean,
6 months?
Patient.
I was patient, but
Yeah.
I
We
was,
took a lot of like weekends out.
Yeah, I was. That's when I was doing my most traveling. Like, fuck this shit. I'm out of my own crib.
Y'all won.
So then it gets to the point though. So what ends up happening is most of the migrants actually don't stay in New York. That's also another conversation issue that's been going on. Like they get dropped off in New York, and then it's like, well, I have family in New Jersey. I have family somewhere else. So they're not all staying in New York. But it becomes an issue, as everything else, as we've talked about always. Money becomes an issue. So the federal government gave us a ton of FEMA money to actually handle this, and the feds were like, okay, great, you also have a ton of unspent COVID money you haven't used yet that you guys can keep, use it. The problem is, and this is where I don't blame Adams for this, de Blasio, when he got a lot of the COVID money, started experimenting with new programs using the COVID money to fund it. With the idea at the time was like, well, once it takes off and it's popular, the feds will keep funding it. The feds are like, well, you still have money that you haven't spent yet, so either use it or lose it. So now the mayor is kind of angry at the president because he says that, oh, we need more money, we need more this, more that. And the president's like, you guys have a ton of money, you're just not using it. And that's not my problem. Like, you guys got to use what you got first. So, and also, by the way, you guys should be suing Texas and any other state that's sending migrants over because they get FEMA money to handle this because Texas has more open space to handle it.
Right.
And they're not using it properly. So why don't you guys sue for the FEMA money so you guys can use some of that money as well?
Yeah, but that's gonna that's gonna take time. That whole suing and
Not necessarily. I mean, though, you can get. I mean, though, it's actually quite quick, though, because I know sooner or later, like, it goes right to the Supreme Court, and then it's like it's an issue there. It's like, are you using your money funded properly? Now, the argument could be, yes, you are, no, you aren't, or here's ideological reasons, though. But it'll take a year. But I know the idea is at least get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Rather than starting now and then later.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, and you know, we've had these conversations in passing, but there are a lot of states in this country that are underserved in population, right? So that, for example, I know places in Arizona, mainly like in the West, why, and that those communities do need an influx of a working population to even get some sort of economy rolling, just to even get the shit in, because they're becoming like ghost towns.
Well, that's becoming a conversation that's being had also, though. Like
why not just ship them there?
Well, not even not ship them though, but
Or
it's like
temporarily
or give them. I mean, they're giving the options. Like, hey, though, like we used to do this actually way back when, though, where we still do it now. Actually, pardon me. Where like we give people like a ton of money, going like, hey, if you agree to live here for 10 years, we'll even give you the house. Just like they'll work in the area, help build up the population.
Yeah.
Because we are seeing that, especially like I can think of like parts of Pennsylvania, which are like ghost towns.
Well, it's happening here in New York and the
Imagine
state because they're right now migrants that are coming here to the city. A lot of upstate towns are trying to lure them to work up there because they don't have enough employees. And I read an article where a migrant did like speak to the reporter, and they're like, I did accept it because it seemed great to have space and have work, but they're facing so many racist threats right
Well,
there.
that, and then you also get into the fact that there are some towns that are just basically like saying, this is where it becomes tricky.
There's this one little detail.
One little detail here. Like, though, so it also becomes an issue of like, New York City's limited in space, though, but again, it becomes like, whose numbers do you believe? Because the New York Times like blew up this whole article a few days ago where they said like the number of migrants that we claim we're getting and what's really there are two different numbers, and it's probably a lot lower.
Got it.
But it becomes an issue of like some towns are just saying like, but the mayor doesn't want to host them all in New York City, so he keeps trying to ship them out though, and then they're trying, and a lot of towns are suing to block.
How come a lot of the news that gets out that is more sensationalized gets more attention than like rational news?
Because
Since we're out of time, no?
because that's a whole nother episode.
Because like
the after episode.
You know what it is like. For example, our cousin, right? He hit me up with a video talking about like, yo, I think I'm gonna go take a job. He's a doctor. And he's like, yo, I'm gonna go take a job over there because they're having a party, and because the video he sent me was talking about how they're just doing drugs, they're drinking, they're hanging out
in the hotel.
In the hotel,
Yeah, I seen that video too. Yeah.
So, and then he was like, yo, man, you know, this shit is crazy. My friend is a nurse practitioner, and she was helping a woman in labor give childbirth to. In the hallway of the hotel.
Wow.
And he's like, yo, I think I'm just gonna go and hang out over there. And I'm like, nigga, I don't know what party it is that you into that you want to go see. That somebody give birth in the hallway. But like, you know, and so my point being that the level of dehumanization that we're talking about, just humankind, period, I think is pretty fucking wild. Because you know what? At this point, what I'm recognizing that this problem that has come to be now a New York problem is more of a political issue because of the intentional shippings, the intentional driving people here. Can we remedy it? Absolutely. I do feel that there is enough space. You know, we got a shit ton of empty corporate buildings that have not been anything done.
Warehouses and all that.
But you know, we're not. People are just trying to figure it out because nobody just wants to say here.
Well,
but we're dropping $4 billion.
But here's the issue. Here's the other issue that it becomes, though. I mean, you made a great point, though. Like there's a solution, though. But the problem with solutions is that people have to be able to swallow them.
Pause.
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 Going back to another conversation. I mean, the thing is, though, then you start getting into the NIMBYs who go like, oh no, I don't want them living here, and it's
What
like,
are the NIMBYs? Oh, not in my
backyard.
backyard. That's right.
NIMBYs.
Every time he says it, it throws me off.
Yeah, my brother uses that because he's involved in his community over in the West Coast, which is like a lot of NIMBYs. He says,
Yeah.
Don't bring these fuckers.
Yeah. So I mean, those are the NIMBYs. So now there's weird solutions that are popping up. Like I heard last night, there was even a story that they wanted to send these folks to prisons, like Rikers, to actually have housing in
the
them.
migrants?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's crazy.
That's
I
wild.
thought we were trying to shut down Rikers.
That's
What happened with
crazy.
that?
Yeah.
That's a whole different.
No.
We're literally gonna. We can get into it though, when we start talking about housing. But that's becoming a whole different discussion.
And so, you know, when you have these conversations and the reason that this became very somewhat relevant to me was I went to a town hall meeting and in here in Washington Heights and Upper New York, and so you have Dominicans and whites at these meetings, and they're usually on the older side. However, there's this one person that's only, you know, relatively close to my age, and we had an exchange. And she shared that she asked a question as to, you know, what are we gonna do about the migrants? And I flat out asked, I was like, the fuck do you care? Like, you know, like what that got to do with you?
Yeah.
You know, we got other shit that matters to us. And she's like, well, because, you know, it's our tax dollars and you think that that's fair? And so I stayed quiet for like a second. And actually, I didn't even respond. I was just like, look, man, I think it's just a lot happening. I think that, you know, they need to get the money from FEMA and we just need to help people. And I left it at that. Because I was like, I'm not going to go down this motherfucking rabbit hole.
Right,
Ya
right.
estoy cansado. But in my head, my point being is that, you know, when we do talk, when we're talking about taxes, for example, and people are along the lines of saying, yo, but these are my tax dollars and it's not fair and rabble. But yo, when we're bailing out banks and when we're going to war,
Yeah.
like
we're funding the same arms dealers here.
and I'm like, why is no one saying like? And I'm talking about like literally my immediate community.
So let's go. So you made a really good point.
Doesn't say a fucking
word,
word.
nah.
So-
but yo, now when there's more brown people,
Like,
cry,
no.
Isn't that better for us?
I'm like, niggas, you was an immigrant too. What is you
There's
talking
more
about?
voting power. Like, yeah.
And they're like,
get
no,
this
it's
settled.
not fair.
So you
were
made a
here
great
We're
first.
not that far removed from that.
We were here first.
So you made a great
Trying to
point.
take our jobs. South
Damn.
Park.
South Park's suing you. I'm telling you now. We made too many South Park references today.
So 10 seconds, it's fine.
So there's actually a whole so you made an interesting point though about the tax dollar stuff though. So remember during COVID how everyone got like $2,000?
Yeah.
1,200.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, 1,200.
To be exact.
2 times, no?
Yeah, twice. You're right.
2
Twice.
times.
So
2,200.
everyone got mad about that,
2,400.
right? Everyone's like, "Oh my god, like that's going to raise inflation. That's going to throw away everything." Like, here's the thing we don't
inflation's
talk
pretty
about
high
though.
right now.
The corporations and Wall Street got a ton of money to backstop, to literally backstop the economy from going over the cliff. Though billions of dollars, never had to pay it back, and yet, oh, it was the guy who got the COVID checks, and oh my god, he's the one doing the harm.
Yo, we're pointing the fingers at the wrong people.
Right. Yeah.
There's no sense of solidarity. there is no sense of like, yo, we need to be stronger together and we need to be here for one another. Because you're absolutely right. Yo, that COVID bread, corporations that were getting billions of dollars, millions of dollars.
Thieves.
And yo, their job was to make sure that their employees kept getting paid. What them niggas did was lay them off
Pocket all the money.
and pocket that bread.
Or they waited until after the emergency was over. It's like, all right, cool. I didn't spend a lot of it. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So let's, though.
And no rabble.
I know.
Like, no fucking up in arms.
Because of that, you don't really hear that story in the news.
No, I mean...
You actually do, though. The thing is,
you do.
they don't
Niggas will not
promote it
pay
too, but here's the thing, though.
It's not on TikTok.
Wow.
It's not on TikTok.
But here's where it becomes another issue, though. It's like, also, though, it's like, it's easier to get your attention to go to something else.
Yeah.
Like, so, all of a sudden, though, like, if everyone else is talking about Coors Light, you're paying attention to that. You're not paying attention to the fact that it's like, we just lost a lot of tax money to corporations who were supposed to not fire people. And, like, last time I checked, we're seeing more layoffs by the second.
Shit.
And so that's my point, right? Because we also had this conversation, like off camera, and it's not to blow up your spot, Dre, but you said not that what my homegirl said, but something along the lines of like, yo, do you think it's fair? You know, they're getting free shit, blah blah blah, and you know, not exactly, but obviously here you could correct me. But it was a similar sentiment, and I shared with you the position, like, yo, you know, and especially in our family, like we have people that are relatively passionate about this topic.
They're passionate quite about a lot of topics.
Shout out to the
Always the
family.
wordsmith. Always
Shout out to the
wordsmith.
family.
And I'm like, and I'm flabbergasted. And I will use that word again. I'm flabbergasted at some of their comments because I'm like, yo, fam, we're not far removed from being in the fucking campo, man. Like, we could have literally been in not even a pueblo, not even a village, in the fucking campo.
Well, that gets to a whole other issue that I was talking about a few days ago in one of our fam meetings, though, where I was like literally going like, we were talking about the way cops act, and I'm like, the way you're calling for some of these cops to act, I'm like, you do realize like we just survived Trujillo by this much, and the same tactics that you're asking for was what basically he did.
We are flirting very, very hard with fascism.
For our listeners that do not know Dominican history, Trujillo was a highly regarded Dominican dictator.
Pop up.
What
I was saying is that I don't know if it was fair or not, because they didn't do that for the homeless people here. What are they doing for them?
But
That's what I'm trying to.
Unfortunately,
I
feel like they're getting screwed by this. The homeless people.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
Well, then it becomes
It's really unfortunate.
Well, then there becomes another issue, though. I mean, this is sorry. I have to settle this the right way, though. So, I mean, though, it becomes an issue of like we don't have a housing crisis in the city. Let's get this straight. We have a false scarcity crisis because you go through a lot of buildings. How many of them are actually full? Billionaires Row is literally full of empty apartment buildings because either A, the landlord doesn't want to fill it, or B, you have cases where it's like some rich oligarch basically just like, all right, this is my third New York City apartment.
Yeah,
Right.
and just
Parking
keep
money.
it there just to
Parking
keep
money.
it. Yeah.
Or it's keeping it there to keep the value of the building
Yeah.
inflated.
Nah, but and that's on one extreme.
Yeah.
But even on the other extreme, like, you know, NYCHA buildings and all these other things, they're not being filled with people because they're, for whatever reasons, like they don't claim to have the resources to go through the applications to get the people in the apartments, and these apartments are fucking sitting there empty.
Well, now we're getting into this here city budget.
Because part of my job is to go out to like shelters and other programs to promote or, you know, do outreach to see people, you know, that need help with addiction. And we went to this shelter in Brooklyn last week, me and my partner. Shout out to Brother Ja. We went over there and we had we were speaking to like, I'll say 35, 40 people. And when the lady brought us out to introduce us, the first thing she said is, who here speaks English? Guess how many people raised their hand?
No fucking way.
No one.
What? Less than 10.
Wow.
Probably 4 or 5.
No way.
So we was asking the lady, like, what the fuck is going on?
Wait, serious question. Do they speak Spanish?
There was
Or
Arabic.
Arabic.
Fucking
Asian?
a lot Spanish. Yeah, a lot of them are Spanish, and
Yeah, Asian.
a few Asians. It was like all
Few
over the
Asians,
place.
wow.
Yeah. Like it was like immigration now, So it was like, where's everybody?
like,
People that,
bueno.
yeah, that's what I was like, what the fuck
Alright,
is going
so
on?
going back to this false scarcity thing, let's be for 1 second though, because I know this is going to tie into this. So we were talking about a few minutes ago about like moving people into these towns that are falling into ghost towns.
Mm-hmm.
So during COVID, there was a big housing rush. Everyone was talking about like how everyone was moving to house. Guess who turned out to be the 1/3 of the houses? Guess who they went to? You know the answer because I gave you this already.
You guys can guess.
To corporations.
Boom.
Damn. Did I tell you this?
I follow the news headlines.
Oh, there you go.
1/3 of the housing.
Yo, shit, good for you, because I had no idea when he told me that. I mean,
Yeah, they're buying up all the houses, and then they're gonna flip it and charge people an exorbitant
nah, you
amount of
fucking
rent.
listen to our conversation. Fuck out of here. Yo, because I'm like, wait, ¿cómo que tú sabes todo
It
esto?
pops up in my Google news articles.
TikTok.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so all of a sudden though you have a housing scarcity that's
Right.
not real because
Right,
all these houses are off the market. You can't buy them. So now what's going to happen to a lot of the folks that you deal with? They're going to get put into certain housing, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a history that New York City's always had. And though, shout out to the late great Robert Moses for doing this.
God.
Just in case you guys don't know who Robert Moses is,
He's
he has
responsible for all the inequality here in the city.
he has a very
Colorful history.
Colorful history is the word they like to use.
He'll get a pop-up.
Let me,
He designed a lot of the highways, beaches, and all the greenery for
Long Island.
For Long Island, a lot of New York City, but it was all intended to go around in certain neighborhoods.
Was that the red lining? That's what it is,
Redlining,
right?
yeah.
Red lining?
Yep.
So we go in. So what's going to end up happening though? I can almost predict this. You're gonna see a lot of the folks get poured into these certain communities. I mean, though we were joking around about the Bronx actually.
No, I see it already because and I don't mean to cut you off, but going for right now I was working on a presentation that I wanted to share with our congressman, because what I learned is that the terminology affordable is federally put into whatever brackets. So the bracket between getting affordable housing is $30,000 to income for a single person, a single household, just for math's sake, is between $30,000 to $150,000. And that large bracket is affordable housing.
Yeah.
And then under that, then you have supportive housing. So people who make no money or 0 to 20.
So you have like very supportive housing and then very low or
No. So
what is it?
the income brackets are low income. What is it? Low income.
Very low income.
Very low income and extremely low income. So low income is code for broke. So you're broke, very broke, or extremely broke. And then the other
was like middle income.
It's moderate income and then middle income.
And then that's it. And then that was
middle
just like
income is
you're
the
just
32 to
no,
150.
no, middle
No.
income is
Like 100K and up.
100,000 to 150,000.
So
And so in our median income in Washington Heights specifically, between Washington Heights and Harlem, is 56,000 a year for a single. And then the new apartment that they're putting up here, the eligible income for a 1-bedroom apartment single is between 80,000 and 150,000.
for what they say is affordable.
For what
housing.
they call affordable. And I'm like, yo, my man, but if you look at the metric of what we are in this entire neighborhood in this island is low income. So broke and very broke, but not extremely broke, but just broke and very broke. And I'm like, so who is this housing affordable to who?
so then it gets into another messed
And
up stat.
the definition of affordable is inexpensive or reasonably priced in the Oxford Dictionary.
So then it gets into another messed up category because I know there was a recent study that came out that said like so before 100,000 used to be like a big deal when you made that threshold for a salary, right?
Right.
Apparently everybody makes it except me now.
I know. Same.
But here's where it gets funny though. Like how much of it do you actually? What do you think 100,000 is in New York money?
No, it's 50K if that.
Not even.
30K. It's 30K.
Yep.
100,000 if you do annually
After
100,000.
taxes and
After
expenses.
taxes and expenses, you only have the equivalent of 30K of your a year-long salary.
What's the best state that has the best?
So that means that broke people have really like then 5.
Yeah.
Wild.
Wow.
5K. That's insane.
So you start to so now what's going to end up happening to a lot of folks who are on the super broke side? They're going to start getting warehoused. Now, what happens when you start? Though history has told us this over and over again, and studies have shown, when you start putting a ton of poor people together,
Chaos.
crime, though automatically, even though people got to survive, so crime goes up.
Yeah.
Right.
So then what comes after that?
So over policing.
And then so then all of a sudden they start because they're really
Well, because it's crime, then the landlords stop. They divest, so they stop investing in those communities. You can't get a decent job, or you probably live like in a 2 fare zone. So that means you ain't gonna leave because there's no fucking train. You got to take 2 buses, or you got to take a bus and a train or whatever.
Liquor stores and all that shit stop popping
And
up.
so then you get all of that, and so you have divestment of the neighborhood. You can't get a good job. You're not taking care of your health.
A brand new ghetto.
And there's a brand new ghetto, and then you got to over police it. And I'm seeing that happening in the Bronx. And even though I was joking, actually, when I looked at the numbers, and I was like, yo, hold up. The eligible income for the Bronx for an apartment, then they were showing apartments for like $300-$500 studios or whatever. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So over there, they have that. But I looked up Harlem and Washington Heights, and we had this conversation on the chat. And I was like, yo, people are proving my point. There's nothing sub 80,000
That's wild.
in Manhattan. And then you go to the Bronx, and even though the person said it's apples to apples, it is not fucking apples to apples. That shit, I don't know what Palestine looks like, and I don't know what Afghanistan looks like, but there's a lot of firecrackers across that bridge, yo. And if that's what it sounds like, at least on the news, that's what fucking the Bronx is to me.
But it's also becoming. But it's also becoming though a bigger issue though in the fact that, i.e. though, then what ends up happening though, this is where it gets really cute. I think I sent you the New York Times article about this.
That shit was a paywall. I worked my way around it, but yes, I got to read the fucking New York Times article.
Where it like gets into the fact that like then we go back to the NIMBYs though, because like the kids who end up I'm gonna say kids though, because I'm gonna shout out to Columbia, the Columbia
Kids, all about the kids.
the Columbia folks who live here. They all of a sudden though like they get voting rights over like the next affordable housing unit and who gets actually living there. So all of a sudden though now you really start getting more even a more segregated city because they're starting to. That's how you start, like, basically causing more gentrification and kicking folks out.
Yeah, it's exacerbating it to a whole nth degree because when they go to these projects too, and they're like, yo, we need approval, we need support to say that we can build this new building next to you. Can you say that you're gonna do it? And we're gonna make sure that you have housing. There's gonna be affordable housing and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And our borough president, and I had a brief conversation with him, Mark Levine. We're up here in Washington Heights. Dominican, white, and there's more people, but that's all I know. and so when they're there talking about all the issues at hand and public safety and blah blah, and Mark Levine goes, the median rent in New York City is $5,000. It's probably more now, but he said as of April it's $5,000, and I was like, wait, what? And so for a 1-bedroom. And he goes, and we need to start talking about bringing more affordable housing. And everybody's like, yeah, literally, right? And I called him afterwards, and I was like, Mark, just out of curiosity, when you say affordable housing, who are you saying affordable housing for? And he goes, whoa, that's a really loaded question. And then I was like, look, I'm not attacking you. I'm just asking you. Because you're talking about affordable housing, and the reality is that a lot of the new developments up here are not affordable to the people within this community. So do you think we should consider having a conversation about changing the verbiage and removing affordable housing?
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, that's a really good point. And then there was this white lady next to him, and she goes, wait. Oh, affordable housing doesn't mean affordable, and I go, exactly my point. It does not mean affordable.
Not for the people there.
To us,
Yeah.
She's an older white woman. I'm sure she got a fucking fixed income.
Right.
And so she goes, wait, that's a really good question. So what should we be calling it? And so he said we should call it targeted income housing. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I came home and I made a graph, and I was like, all right. So targeted income housing means. We didn't get into these details, him and I, but in my brain, the way I processed it, I was like, these are the people you actually want
To live in their apartment.
and to live in their apartment.
Yeah.
You want the $80,000 to $150,000 income people, so you call it targeted income housing. That introduces transparency between local government, developers, and community members. But So you got targeted income housing, and then I think between 80, what was it? I created from like I think 80 to 40K. Then that should be accessible housing, meaning that people have enough money to afford
those places.
But if I call it affordable, because now we've used this term so loosely that it's so broad and subjective, because clearly the motherfucker that makes $30,000 is not gonna find what the motherfucker that makes $150,000 affordable. So I mean, in my real world,
and then you get into the other issue of like, what's gonna turn? How are they gonna start transforming these neighborhoods? Like, is the Heights gonna be the Heights?
The Heights is no longer going to be the Heights, dude. They just dropped $500 million on where Pathmark used to be in the parking lot to build a 700 unit apartment, a development complex. And the other ones
huge.
look way bigger. So I don't even know how the MTA is gonna operate up here, period. Because 700 households right where the one train is at on that's 207.
That's
a lot of people.
But you have to remember, that's if they fill them all, because then you get into the fun game of like, all right, we're paying for all these apartments. Guess what? Most of them aren't going to get filled. All of a sudden, though, now you get empty apartments. Rents have to go up to keep up
the building running. Yeah.
But if they made the rents accessible, they can fill up the apartments.
Exactly. That's a whole discussion. I mean,
but that's why I think it should go within that direction where it becomes law, where because it is law currently that new developments need to have
that's what I was about to ask,
a certain amount of affordable housing.
Yeah.
What's the building that's on Sugar Hill?
Complex. But that complex,
yeah, which is a good example of how to.
And I learned it
create
falls
accessible housing
under supportive housing, and and they've done a great job. I think they're a fantastic model, but they're not affordable housing; they're supportive housing. So they offer for people that need who have children that make very little to no income, all that kind of stuff.
The whole building,
and it's a nice building.
It's
too.
the whole building, and it has a art gallery. It has a school inside of it.
Yeah,
it's on 157 by
right
like Macomb Bridge.
Oh shit!
It looks like one of those little Jenga buildings. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so it's an experiment. It's one of its kind. But they had applications. I think it was for like 100 or 300 units. And they got over 10,000 applications.
Wow.
And I was just like, yeah, man, shit is real.
It's needed.
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me of my favorite, most confused term in New York City. When you tell everyone it's rent stabe.
Rent
stabe. That's the new term.
Yeah.
Rent stabe. Hashtag rent
stabe.
Oh,
no. What's the other
rent
one?
Stabilized.
Rent controlled.
Rent controlled.
Rent controlled.
Yeah, because rent stabilized stays the same amount, right?
Rent controlled
stays forever.
Mm-hmm.
Rent stabilized is only a certain amount that you can increase.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you talk to everybody, I'm in a rent controlled apartment.
Nah.
And when you're like, no, you're not, because they actually are raising it. Like, the rent controlled ones are gone because
they're not doing that no more. Though,
the minute you
they either everybody died off or they moved them out.
Oh, they moved them out. Really?
They pay them off.
Yeah, if they move them out, that's it.
But if you don't accept the money,
you can keep it.
You can keep it.
But then they don't do any maintenance on your building.
Or the
you own it, but you don't own it.
Yeah.
But the landlord can make your life a living hell by doing upgrades.
Try to kick you up.
No, it's a lot of intimidation tactics out there.
Yeah.
So in other words, like this housing, and you're right, that is a proper term. Housing, when they're talking about housing crisis or scarcity, it's a false scarcity because there is space, there are units, but the prices are, in my opinion, unreasonable. The math doesn't make sense. I'm going based off median income in this neighborhood.
Well, that's because we've had this conversation also. Money ain't real.
It's not.
After you reach a certain point,
it's not.
Yeah. It's and so in other words, what I would want to, the way I would want to tie it all into the immigration issues and the housing issues is that our focus and our shift as not only just as a community but as just a humanity in general has been so lost in the noise of what we're consumed with and consumed by that we're not allowing ourselves the space to be like, yo, we need to be more in a solidarity state. Because in a surreal world where if you were to think about what tax day is to us, tax day is a day that we're all like pissed off. They're taking my money, right? And they're using it for what? But in reality, tax day should be a day that we should be happy about, because we're gonna be saying like, yo, this is the day that our children or our friends' children will have access to education. The people in need of help will get the help. People that need a medication will get the medicine. People who are seniors and are going old will have a place to stay and transition.
Right. For also Republicans, like small businesses will get support from the government.
But we got tax day every day.
No, tax day is
Like,
April
no,
or
well,
whatever.
it depends.
No,
Well,
I'm
so-
saying because we pay taxes.
No,
every
but
day.
but you know, that's when you file and they either take more money if you make more money,
Right.
and but we don't, you know. But that's what I said in the surreal world. But if we were using those funds for those resources, but yo, when you see that we're fucking hoarding bread, and by bread I mean money, we're hoarding money and we're creating a sense of false scarcity, and it's just fucking all being funneled to the richer becoming richer.
and creating
It
pressures
sucks.
on the other end.
It's like, how is it that why is it that my fucking tax money is helping corporations being
Right.
bailed out?
Yeah.
Why is my tax money helping banks being bailed out? Like, yo, I thought if you fucked up, you fucked up.
Right.
And
Well, that's all right. Now we're diving into the other conversation. We had. It was a long group
Put my
chat that
headset a little
morning.
bit down, Ranji.
Huh?
My headset a little bit down.
Oh, my fault.
Oh,
Oh,
that's right.
You're artful.
Yeah, that was a long chat we had that morning. But we were talking about like, and one of the biggest things that gets on my nerves. So we were talking about Facebook, about how they lost $12 billion.
Jesus.
On that lawsuit?
No, on Meta.
On the meta shit.
Yeah.
That-
But they were getting
their meta
sued, no?
expert-
Was it
They've
getting
gotten sued, but
and,
they really
like-
and a lot of their money that they lost supposedly was on Meta, which
okay.
they were trying to make it a real thing, and then everyone realized nobody wants it. $12 billion. But the thing is, I was telling me and Ron were having a conversation, but I'm like, that money's not real.
Right.
Because all of a sudden, I'm like, please tell me, like, they'll show me where the $12 billion was being spent. And they're like, oh, well, it's $12 billion allocated. And it's like, so it was never there.
Shit.
And you start like hearing these things, and so what I've come to terms with, at least in my position and my optics, is obviously there's a lot of shit I can't control, right? But what I can control is the human emotion behind all of this, which is to introduce the empathy and trying to get some sense of logic behind all the noise. Because what I can control is how I react to all of this information that we're getting. Yo, it's a lot of information. And we're not allowing ourselves that moment in time to just be like, yo, where's the humanity involved in all this? How can we introduce solidarity for all this? Because I'm gonna say, yo, I was very upset to see so many people of color, brown and black, be upset at other people of color. Like, you know, for trying to seek help and better their lives. Because we don't know what their circumstances are.
They're running away from circumstances the U.S. government created.
Shit.
You know,
Well, that's a whole thing. Now we're going to get into a real conversation.
and then that goes into a whole nother subset of things. But, you know, for me, it's just at that micro level of like, yo, why we continue to talk about more hate towards each other?
Right.
You know, rather than talking about how can we uplift each other and build each other up. And especially given that, you know, it's my direct bloodline family and niggas is Dominican and they talking all this shit. And I was just like, I was kind of hurt. I was just like, yo, man, you know that we could have been that and even worse off probably. And y'all over here, no, but we need to do things the right way. I'm like, but what is right? Because I know how we did things, and there were a lot of skewed moral lines and shit.
Fucking 10 people living in one apartment. Well, that shit was illegal.
like there's, you know, so right, it becomes very subjective.
It's probably a sense of fear, though, man, because the media always portrays it like this big.
But I don't.
Shit is coming
We've had this
on.
conversation before, though, and I don't believe it's the media. I think it's us because the media reflects us.
It's the scarcity mentality.
They're scared.
That's what it is.
But now
Scarcity.
we're having more of that transparency of now that I mean, I've never talked like this with anyone about that false sense of scarcity, because yo, everybody says what everybody else is regurgitating. You're in this shit, so you telling me like, nah, I got the numbers to back this up.
Yeah.
And like you say, you got this little saying. What is it that prove me wrong? Don't. Coño, do you say?
I forgot.
Yo, no, he'd be like, yo, it's I'm gonna bring facts and you're gonna give me opinions. And if you have facts to back up those opinions, then I will listen to you. Otherwise, go get your facts straight, and then we'll have a conversation.
It's a long saying.
Yeah. But,
Damn, I don't think it was that long.
no, but he said some shit like that.
Go back to old episodes.
Imagine printing that out on a banner.
Damn, that's gonna be expensive.
You have a right
A lot of paper taped together.
Actually, here we go. You have the right to your
Oh, there you
opinions,
go.
but you don't have the right to your own facts.
Yeah, there you go.
That's better.
Yeah, that's way better. I butchered that shit. My
You're
fault.
like,
Right to
if you
opinions,
come
but
to
you
the
got the right
table
to
with
your
your own facts, maybe I will listen and look it up in my
That's a good
books with
saying,
my
though.
facts.
Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys.
Love you.
I thought I had it right here.
You did, yes.
He had the concept.
Somewhere in my brain is
the
like
idea.
that.
You just dragged it a little bit.
Yo, we're already at over a fucking hour. And that's
Damn.
and that's when I started the new episode.
Oh wait, that's what the
Damn.
intro?
Yeah, that's what the
Oh my
intro.
god.
So
That's insane.
I think because for people to absorb all this, I think we're gonna like leave it at
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I
For
know.
me to absorb all this.
Bro, for us to have a peace of mind.
And all transparency is for us.
We
to
gotta
have a
think
peace of mind.
about our mental health too, bro. We got 3 hours in
This
here.
conversation is going to keep going after the episode, though.
Yeah, because yes, it can spiral a little further.
We didn't even get to Elon Musk money yet.
Yeah, no,
Oh my God.
and you know,
That's
like
also imaginary
I think
money.
I just gotta fill you in. I think you just gotta make a once a month visit. Bro.
Yeah,
because when we do talk,
Yeah.
we got so much to want to catch up
Yep.
on
Yeah.
that when we start the conversation,
It's
fueron
rapid fire.
yo, and I'm like, nah, you know, so we'll
We'll figure it out, yeah.
We'll do probably like the last Saturday of the month or some
Yes.
shit. But all right, y'all know the call. This is last call for words. We'll start off with my brother Dre Drizzo.
I'm gonna keep it nice and short. It's been a long
Yo, my
weekend.
man, why is your fucking chest so caved in?
Yo, bro, I'm winded, bro. I'm fucking winded. So much shit going on. You know, help each other, love each other, protect each other. Don't hate on each other. Let's keep it at that.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. My brother Clark Kent, man, yo, as always, a blessing to have you on deck. I do love the fact that you just come here and you do drop facts, man, and I appreciate you. What is your last call for words?
After a certain amount of zeros, money ain't real.
Oh shit!
Yes.
After a certain amount of zeros, money ain't.
How many
real.
zeros specifically?
I would say what? 9?
9 trillion?
Once you get to $1 billion, it's
Yeah.
starting to get it gets a little queasy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like ¿qué vamos a contar?
Yeah, that's true.
It's all fake.
How many, 9 is $1 billion?
I don't know.
I forgot.
Wait, yeah. Yeah, 9 is. Yeah.
6 is a million.
Well,
No, 6 is a
Wait,
100.
no, what? Math.
Six figures at that.
Is
Six
that
figures is
600,000?
only 100,000.
Yeah,
yeah. So 9 is
3
a,
more is a million.
So then we need
No,
12.
no, 1 more.
Oh
You
my
know what?
God. I'm a visual
I'm
person.
done.
I'm done.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Fuck me up with that whole shit. Anyways, the phenomenal, the always lovely, honorable lady. What are your last call for words, my love?
That was intense. I'm
Jeez.
just gonna kill it.
I get it.
Yeah,
it.
get it.
I get it.
Ah, got it. Got it.
Intense,
See,
intense.
they already on our minds. They already take over our minds. Let me stop.
It was in reference to the commercial we were watching before
Yeah.
we started the episode.
Money is not real. We got to get away with this scarcity mentality because there's plenty of everything.
Oh no, I believe money's real, but I mean the money that you and me deal with is real. Once you start getting to billions,
I don't know. People want to make you think it's real, and it is real. There are real consequences to it, but at the end of the day, my point being that the scarcity mentality has to go.
Let's get it.
what do you got, Kane?
The more I verbalize a lot of the issues that we're discussing, it makes me just sit back and think how little I fucking know. Because, yo, there are so many realities out there. And there are so many pressing issues. There's so many crises. There's so many. It's just a lot of words for a lot of things that are to instill some sort of sense of urgency. You know, the kids and what they're exposed to, the false scarcity, the
Housing.
like all these things, and it's like everybody has this situation. at a core sense of at the core sense of belief, I would love to, and I do believe that everybody just wants what's best for them and their loved ones and their people. I do believe that. And so then there is this sense of fear and all that. But then there is that other flip side. There is that big reality that there is corporate machines. And these corporate machines need and are only operated by profits. Not the ones that you believe in, but the ones that you generate. and it's out of control. The sense of moral direction is to help each other, to not want to just only capitalize off of each other. It's kind of lost in the mix. And the more I come to be aware of all these realities, the more I kind of just want to slow down and allow myself to be like, look at everything that's taking place around me. Because, from the start of this not this particular episode, but since we've started this podcast, I have grown more empathetic to people that use drugs. I went from calling them junkies to humanizing them and to empathizing for what they're going through, because I don't know what they're going through. And even yesterday's conversation, man, that Yolanda went through like a lot, and I can see how people can easily turn to drugs. The whole migrant situation, I just sympathized with them off the rip because they were brown, and I'm like, brown and black people, brothers coming from Haiti, brothers and sisters coming from South America, like, we here, we need to help each other. But then you hear the stories, in Mexico, fucking little pockets where cartels go and just shoot up in the sky and let it rain bullets, and if you don't get hit, you survive, but your children died, your wife died, your family died, and they gonna remind you that, we either y'all motherfuckers work for us, or we coming back tomorrow and shooting up this entire fucking village, and your government ain't got your back, nobody here to support you or help you, and them niggas bounce, and they need help too. And and so then you have the reality of what a lot of people in America going through, whether it's sexual preference, sexual orientation, sexual identity, and they're trying to figure out their own life, and then they're experiencing a certain level of hate. And there's a lot to the human experience, but I think at the core of what our human experience should always be is to be compassionate and loving. I seen I forgot what show we seen, but there was a show, an episode where there was a lady escape. It was like they did a flashback of times, and the lady escaped a fucking avalanche. It's like caveman shit. And she had a baby. She's walking with the baby. A fucking snake bites her. She's dying off little by little. She fucking dies. And another native lady happens to walk by because she died, and the baby was still clutching onto her teat, to her tit. I don't know how to say it. And the mother, they didn't say a word because the lady's dead. The lady picked up the baby and fed the baby and kept it rocking. And I'm like, holy shit, that's before language was language. At the core, there has to be that sense of love. And the more noise I see that we're going into, I fear that gets lost. And that's what worries me. But, I think we should just go back to the human experience and allow ourselves to just feel and be. But just words.
Just words.
Damn, that was a deep one.
Yeah, damn. Haven't had enough?
I think I need a nap after this.
Nap, a vacation.
Yeah, for real.
Just words will be back next week.
My comfort blanket now.
Yeah. This was Mental Health Awareness Month. It will be much more fun. We'll be much lighter next month.
It was a heavy month.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dre, Clark, Lady H, this is Ron Kane. We love you. We're out.
God for this month to be over. It was a heavy month.
Dude, is this one gonna make air?
No. This one will absolutely make it.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were getting into
I will pass by fast.
Yeah, I should shot by fast. So I'm like looking at this one. I started recording a while ago, and this one is way over all of that.
The funny part is Elon Musk just, that was the one that blew your mind a few weeks ago.
Yo, bro, nah, you've been sharing some shit that I'm like, the fuck is real anymore?
I literally love the
Yolanda wants you to send the pics, so.
Okay.
So he freaking goes. So Musk.
They just text.
So, because you haven't heard this one, so you know why Musk is trying. So there's a theory going around that Musk is trying to run the company into the ground on purpose.
Yeah.
Because of what ends up happening, though, if he does, the bank. So he doesn't own Twitter, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't?
No, the banks own Twitter. He only he borrowed a ton of money to buy Twitter.
Oh.
So the theory is that since the banks own Twitter, though, they.
That's that smart people shit.
That's that
richest
smart.
man alive, still borrow money to. That's
No, it gets more fucked up than that, though. So, because